Good morning. My name is Reverend Patrick Mahoney. I'm director of the Christian Defense Coalition. I'm going to turn the news conference over in just a moment to Troy Newman, who's the director of Operation Rescue and president of Operation Rescue in Wichita, Kansas. I'm director of the Christian Defense Coalition based in Washington, D.C. Just a couple of points before I turn it over to Troy. This is a human rights issue here this morning. Whatever your views are on abortion, and of course we believe in the sanctity of life, we believe in human rights, we believe in equal justice for all, but wherever you stand on the issue, women across America are being butchered. And there is no regulation. Right now, today, in America, the most unregulated business is the abortion industry. Veterinarian hospitals have more regulations than abortion clinics. Your local deli at your supermarket has more regulations than abortion clinics. Abortion clinics across America, I will say again clearly, it's the most unregulated business in America. And if you support women, if you support human rights, if you support consumer protection, this is an outrage. And it will become more outrageous as I turn it over to Troy Newman, and then residents from the state of Maryland will be sharing. Troy?
Thank you, Reverend Mahoney. I'm Troy Newman. I'm the president of Operation Rescue. And what brings us here to Maryland today, if you've been watching the news cycle over the past 3 to 4 weeks, and increasingly more so in the last week, you will see just a glimpse, almost the tip of the iceberg of what is happening and what is systemic across the nation. And that is, as Reverend Mahoney said, women in America are not receiving the safe, legal abortions. In fact, they're being butchered on a daily basis. And the only reason that the patient with the initials DB is alive today is because of the incredible, courageous actions of those in the emergency room in Elkton that transported this woman to Johns Hopkins University and literally saved her life. Countless women across America have died in the last 40 years. Fortunately, DB is alive today, not because of the actions of Riley and Bingham and Walker and Shepard, but because of the courageous actions of real medical personnel that intervened in a horrific, terrible, botched abortion and saved her life. My friends, we have to understand that Shepard, an abortionist and a former physician in Maryland, was an 88-year-old man that was charged simply with monitoring the refrigeration equipment. Bingham was only licensed in New Jersey and not in Maryland, and he came here to operate illegally. Riley is a convicted felon who served 1 year in Leavenworth for credit card fraud, failed her medical test 3 times before she finally obtained it, and was under training by an unlicensed physician in Maryland. Today we are asking for a meeting with the State Attorney General and also calling upon the legislature of Maryland to not only insist that the medical board complete its investigation and finalize the revocation of these medical licenses and issue a cease and desist order on Steven Bingham, but begin a criminal investigation and ask for homicide charges into the horrific late-term abortions that span from 16 weeks all the way to 35 weeks in an illegal abortion scheme that is located right here in Maryland. So I'll be available for questions more in a minute, but I want to turn it over to Mike Martelli of Maryland. Thank you.
Introduce your title.
Thank you very much. My name is Michael Martelli. I am with Living Hope for Life, a pro-life ministry here in Maryland. And first of all, I would like to take the opportunity to commend the medical board for taking these actions very quickly in the case of Bingham, and as well as Romeo Ferrer in Severna Park. He was suspended last week. His license was suspended last week as well. Unfortunately, just yesterday we found out the fact that he has brought another abortionist into his gynecare facility in Severna Park, a Gavant Wartanian. and he's an OBGYN that practices in Glen Burnie. And just on the internet, in 24 hours, we found that this man has had 18 lawsuits brought against him in 20 years. He has lost at least 9 of them in settlements and has spent millions of dollars settling. So if you compare this man to Romeo Ferrer, over Romeo Ferrer's 30-year, I don't know which one's worse. And it is important that we not just take out these doctors that have done these horrible things. Ferrer had a woman die in 2006 for 3 counts of negligence and things that he gave her too much anesthesia, he didn't monitor her vital signs, and he didn't even provide her oxygen when they saw her lips turning blue. So we have to stop this. We have to take action against these doctors. We ask the Attorney General to continue with looking for criminal charges against Romeo Ferrer in addition to Brigham and his gang. Thank you very much, and I'll turn it back over to...
I'm Peter Shin from Pro-Life Unity, president of Pro-Life Unity. And this topic we're talking about today is one where we don't really have to wonder what's going on inside these abortion facilities anymore. I think people recognize what happens with abortion. In the old days, it used to be discussed as a blob of flesh. People weren't really aware, or perhaps they were aware but weren't really sure. But now, after all this time, we see what's happening with abortion. We know we're talking about a human being. As Reverend Mahoney said, we're talking about a human rights issue. The human rights issue is not only concerning those women who are going in there and who are being hurt by these doctors, but also their children who will never make it out of this place. When you see the story about this particular case, you'll see the discussion about how when they were pulling out the arms and the legs of this child and then finally realized that they made a mistake and they started to disembowel this woman before they had to bring her to an emergency room. Arms and legs obviously belong to human beings, and it's time for the Attorney General of this state to look at this case and other cases that recognize that human life does begin at the moment of conception. We need to do all we can to represent the women and the children in their womb. Thank you.
Good morning, Jack Ames from DefendLife.org. It is a crime that preborn babies legally are killed, 4,000 of them every day in Maryland, every day in America. We are very encouraged by the fact that 4 abortionists now are going to be retired. Brigham, Shepard, Riley, and Ferrer. Ferrer's suspension is temporary. We call on the Maryland Board of Physicians to revoke it permanently. Also, Dr. Riley, the abortionist from Salt Lake City, who comes to Maryland to kill babies. Here's what she said when she took her patient, the one who almost died as a result of the botched abortion, DB, to Elkin Hospital. She said, "I'm from the secret abortion mill here in Elkton." She's not very smart. A year in Leavenworth for credit card fraud, having failed her medical exam 3 times. This is not the type of physician we need in Maryland. The Maryland Board of Physicians needs to clean up their act, tighten up their regulations, and so does the House of Delegates in the State Senate here in Maryland.
Right. Very good.
My name is Rachel Sargent, and I want to tell you today that safe and legal in Maryland is not safe and legal. In fact, it's not safe and legal in any state in the United States. What's happening here is that people are getting away with a lot of things because of regulations that are not being applied. And what's happening even across the border in the next state are there doctors that are licenses are being taken away. And so today is a small victory for us, but it will not stop here. We want prosecution to happen within the state of Maryland, and we want it to happen in all 50 states, because we will find these people who are conducting illegal and legal abortions, because it is unsafe for the child and for the mother. Thank you.
Just a quick, we are now going to go into the Attorney General's office here, and we want to make this point clear. It is not just immoral what is happening here. It is not just unconscionable. It is not just distasteful. It is criminal. This is a criminal act. If this happened under any other situation, people would have indictments against them right now. We demand for a criminal investigation. We call upon this Attorney General not to let the politics of abortion enter into this and look at it on its face for its action. This is repugnant. This is criminal. So we are going to go in. We recognize the Attorney General's main office is in Baltimore, but we hope today to leave here with a commitment for a meeting with the Attorney General. Any questions? Troy can come back. Any questions or thoughts that you might have? If not, we're going to walk around to my left, and we have to get an ID search and then go up and meet with the representative of the Attorney. I think, is it the Assistant Attorney General?
Assistant Attorney General, right.
Who's here. Okay, thank you so much for coming out.